When it comes to getting good video quality out of retro video games, it can be a real challenge. One of the things that a lot of people don't know what they don't know when they're just getting back into it. That's where I was, quite honestly, when I started getting back into retro video games. Like, first thing I went for an HDMI equipped clone system, and you know what? I had a great time with it, and I'm glad that's where I started, because it taught me I could buy import games and play it on a US system, and it would work, and I would have so much fun. Then I looked into playing on actual hardware because there were some compatibility issues. For example, Battletoads is notorious for not working past the second level on most clone systems. I wanted something that worked 100%. So I got myself an original NES, and I hooked it up to a modern flat panel TV, and it looked like crap. Let's just be honest about that. Composite video going into a modern TV looks terrible. So I started looking for better ways to go ahead and connect my stuff. First up, AV to HDMI adapters. They're cheap. I like cheap. And they did what I went RCA in, HDMI out. That's what I wanted, right? They looked even worse than just composite going into my TV, and a lot of them add an audio buzz. Then a few years later, I found out that there was a gentleman, I use that term very loosely, tongue-in-cheek, there's a gentleman by the name of Mike Chi making a product called the RetroTink 2X. And what it did is it took your component and composite video inputs and line doubled it from 240p, which is the native output of like an NES, Super NES, Genesis, doubled it to 480p and gave you an HDMI output. I tried one, I loved it. If you want to check out our original review and reaction, I will have that for you right up there. Over the years, I've been lucky to test just about every RetroTink product and gotten to be pretty decent friends with Mike over at RetroTink. That out of the way, we have the new granddaddy right here, his latest invention to come out of the labs. This is the RetroTink 4K. That's right, 4K. So we had the 2X that line doubled from 240p to 480p. We have the 5X, which I have right here, that lined up, multiplied up to 5 times, gave you 1080p and more if your displays can handle it. Mine can't go past 1080p. But now the 4K promises to take everything that he's learned over the years from all the other RetroTinks and give you up to a 4K scaled put on it. Now, the video that you're seeing right here of me, I'm recording in 1080p. I'm rendering this video in 4K, so if this part looks kind of grainy, that is why. But what we're gonna do, we're gonna take a look at how this comes out of the box, although technically Mike just sent this to me like this in beautiful packaging. Orders are now open, so you can go ahead and order one of these. There's no back orders. When he has stock, he's gonna post them on the website. But we're gonna go through, see how this comes out of the box, go through the setup process, and we are going to test out a number of different systems with it. Now, for me, one of the really cool things is the fact that this brings in a VGA port. Why is that important? Not only for older computers, the Sega Dreamcast has a VGA cable that is pretty inexpensive and delivers beautiful results. The RetroTink 5X did not have that, so I had to do a VGA to SCART adapter. This will eliminate that for me. This also has composite, component, S-video, and RGB SCART. So one other little caveat here, Mike did send this to me for review for us doing video purposes. He's not reviewing any of the content, anything along those lines. Just throwing my personal bias out of there, I do consider Mike to be a friend, but when something sucks, I will tell you, Mike, just like in the past, you put micro USB on for power. How could you, you evil son of a... So taking a look here, we do have the RetroTink 4K on the bench, and I gotta love the bunny. That's Mike's kind of MO and whatnot. I love the fact that it's on there. It does have venting on the top to go ahead and let some of the heat come out. On the back, let's take a look, because we do have component video input. You have a reset button, you have an audio input, that's a 3.5 millimeter headset jack. VGA in, yes. And then you have an optical audio input, HDMI out, HDMI in. Dude, we got to talk about this right here. This is a real 100% and legit USB-C power cable. Thank you, Mike. Thank you, sir, for finally getting away from micro USB, going USB-C. Love that feature on here. Now taking a look at the top, we do have an RGB SCART cable input on it, so we can go ahead and do a SCART input. And then on the face, we do have this sliding door, which will reveal your composite inputs and your S-video. And then finally on the front, we also have a standard size SD card, so you can do things such as do your firmware updates. I'm sure you can store profiles and whatnot. One thing I have to admit I'm not thrilled about is how loose this is. I wish that it snapped into place, because right now if I were to stand it on end, as you can see, it just flops right down every time. So that is something that I don't know if that's just unique to this one, but looking at it, it's got a little bit of play there. So Mike, if you can tighten that up in a future run, that would be beautiful. Now this may have been a pre-production unit as well, so that may have been fixed in his more recent production runs. Now this is the remote control that comes with it. You definitely have your input, output, SFX, ADC, a lot of stuff going on up there. Menu, back, diagram, I have no idea. We're gonna have to go ahead and play around with a few things. Interesting here, he does have pre-programmed buttons for 4K, 1080p, 1440p, 480p, and then additional auxiliary and other buttons on here. So definitely a very feature-rich remote. So what I want to see first and foremost, the way I want to hook this up, is I have everything already going into my RetroTink 5X, and then from there going to my switcher box output via HDMI. I want to see if I can just go straight into the HDMI input and then go out to my TV, if that'll work. Because quite honestly, if I don't have to use these, or if these are just extra inputs that I could use down the road, that would be fantastic, because that'll just simplify everything. If I can just go, you know, and I'm going to daisy chain it together from the RetroTink 5X into the HDMI in, and then go HDMI out here to my TV and my capture device. So let's go ahead, let's hook this up, and let's see what Evil Genius has done.
All right, so I've changed things up a little bit here too. I didn't like the fact that when I would do gameplay before, I'd be looking here so you get this out of my face. I've now got my gameplay monitor here, so I get to look more into the camera. For what we are starting out with, this is Bucky O'Hare for the Famicom, actually. Now, one thing I did want to do is I have the remote here, and I do want to show you real quick the stats on display so you can see all the input timing and whatnot. What I want you to look is 1, 2, 3, fourth down, active size, 380 or 3840 by 2160. That is the resolution, so we are at 4K on here. You do have a number of different input selection options on here too, so we are coming in through HDMI. Oh, by the way, I am basically daisy chaining out of my switcher, my HDMI switcher, so everything's going either into my HDMI switcher or into my RetroTink 5X, and then into the 4K here. There are going to be a couple games later that we will connect right up to here, probably the Dreamcast, but we'll see about that. So it does also have the option where you can do the front composite or S-video selection. On the back, RGB, RGSB, and CVBS on green. Has your SCART information here too, and then your VGA settings as well. For HDMI output, this is where you can make all of your changes and everything. Now, I've played around in the past before I recorded this, a little behind the scenes. Second time I'm having recorded this because I had some settings wrong in OBS. So basically between the gameplay, visuals, and the audio, there was a huge gap. And for a couple games, it wasn't bad, but for a lot of them, it's like, oh yeah, this I didn't want you all to see that. So, but here is what it looks like with HDR off, and this is coming out of my HDMI modded NES top loader. So here's what HDMI or HDR looks like on, and I don't like these colors for this, but it's an option, and I don't think that for this input it'll give me, yeah, it's just off. Color is, 709. RGB range I have set to full. Sync lock is triple buffer. VRR, variable refresh rate, you can set off. Free sync, or is it just those two? Yep, it's just those two. Deep color on or off, basically. And let's give you a look. Capture card did not recognize, so we are going to have to turn that off. There we go. And then here you can see the native output, or not native, but the optional output resolutions that we can have set on here. I do have it set to 4K 60. You can do 4K 50, 1080p 60, so on. So you can see the different resolution options that you have right over here, I guess it would be on that side of the screen. So we are going to back out of there. One of the neat things you can do too is you can actually develop your own profiles and load them into here. Why would you want that? Some screens that may crop differently. I know on the Sega systems there are issues where sometimes the screens are cropped a little bit weirdly, shall we say. So you can load from file or you can load from default. And there are preloaded profiles on here. So for Nintendo, we have the N64, GameCube, NES, and then there are advanced settings in here too for scaling and cropping, processing effects, color correction. This thing does so much. But quite honestly, I've just really been happy with how it works with the default profile. So let's play some Bucky-O here. We are using the RetroBit Originate wireless controller again, and this is going through my NES HDMI modded top loader. This is a great way to play. And also, great version of this game because it's not nearly as expensive as the US version. I will never own the US version, I will tell you that much. That frog or toad or whatever that is there reminds me of the Flying Frog Brigade from Les Claypool. So that was one of the moves I was having trouble. Like, I knew that I had done it at one point, but I didn't remember how. And then to capture this, we're actually using our Kwame 4K capture device. One of the things about that is it is a 4K capture, but it's only a 1080p pass-through. So what I'm actually seeing here is only 1080p on my monitor. It's only a 1080p monitor anyways. But having, like I say, this is the second time going through and doing this. The footage on 4K, God, this looks so good. Oh, you know, it didn't look good, me getting shot there. Bucky O'Hare, such a great game, and really a great franchise that we deserve to have come back. I mean, it was one of those games that, I don't remember if the game came out before the cartoon or if the cartoon was before the game. So this is what the Famicom looks like. Well, at least the NES Famicom, let's call it that. Because this is the HDMI again, and I'm just using a 60 to 72 pin adapter. I want to show you all what the Famicom Disk System looks and sounds like, because man, it's so good. This is The Legend of Zelda for the Famicom Disk System. You can hear the extra audio tracks and everything. This sounds so good. Now, one of the unique things about this is to actually start the game. It'll go through and keep playing this, and it'll get you the menu screen and everything. But you can't hit start to start the game. You have to eject the disc out of the disk system and put in side B. Now, the other thing, this is composite video. So this looks fantastic. And that's basically what the katakana there is saying is, you know, flip to side B to play the game. So we are now going to do that. So great. So great. Now, I did actually get this copy of The Legend of Zelda from Vink at Japan Retro Direct. Unofficial, official import source for Rock Solid Productions here. And you can tell that that's where I got this from because, number 2, that's Vink from Japan Retro Direct. Thank you, brother. I appreciate you giving me a great deal on a great game that plays wonderfully. We are going to go in and just start my own profile here. Now, one thing, I am still using the RetroBit Originate controller. The one thing about this is I did actually come up with an NES to Famicom expansion port adapter. I will have that link for you in the upper left-hand corner, your right-hand corner, if you want to check that out. Now, one of the things that I love, too, about the Famicom Disk System version of this game, listen to the sword sound effects. There's just so much more there, you know? It sounds wonderful. Now, if I did have this hooked up via the RAM card adapter and everything to my NES top loader with the HDMI mod, it would look even better still. But even for composite video, composite does not deserve to look this good. Now, one thing, just being transparent, I am first going into my RetroTink 5X, upscaling to 1080p, and then taking that signal going into the RetroTink 4K. You don't have to do that. What that does basically is it handles some of the scaling and whatnot for me, so I don't have to dink with it, basically. Very responsive. I mean, I'm digging the control and everything on this. This is fantastic. So this is what the Sharp Famicom Twin looks like coming through composite video. Let's keep it 8-bit, and let's go to the Sega Master System. Now, this is R-Type on the Sega Master System, and I think this looks fantastic. Now, this is coming through Insurrection Industries SCART cables. So we are coming through our 6-in 1-output switcher box, getting everything going here. I think this is beautiful. Now, we are using the RetroBit Big 6 wireless controller here, and let's see how it plays. Now, the one thing I will say about this version is I feel like it's a little bit slower than some of the other versions. It's not a complaint, it's just how I think the game itself plays. I just think that it's a little bit slower, but then again, there are some days when I am a little bit slower as well, and could honestly use things being a little bit slower. Damn, I missed the power-up. I always thought those things looked like Megatron heads. I don't know why. I will say this is playing beautifully. I'm absolutely loving this. I'm not loving that. Did not love dying there. Thankfully, we kind of got to a checkpoint, so we don't have to play the rest of the level over again. But now, I have not recapped my system, so I will say that there's some jail barring going on here. One of these days, I'm going to take this thing and open it and fix that. I know Voltar offers a great kit. I know Jason over at GameTech US also offers, there we go, some kits to help with jail barring and other things. A little bit of game slowdown here, but that's, again, due to the game, not due to the upscaling. Got him. Yeah, this is a fantastic... If you are a fan at all of R-Type, you definitely want to check this out and not die like that. So let's jump from the 8-bit NES and the Famicom Disk System to the 8-bit Super Game Boy, playing through our Super Nintendo. Now, I am now going and utilizing the Legacy 16 controller from RetroBit, and we are going to go ahead and dive into this. I think this looks great. I'm really happy with the way this is looking. Now, for connectivity, this is hooked up actually to my US Super NES, and I do have one of my Nestoration region-free no-cut mod kits into the system, and I also have one of Voltar's RGB mod kits in this, so it's one of the reasons why it looks so good. And then we are using HD Retrovision component video cables to connect it up to the system then as well. I gotta say, this looks great, I think, for the Game Boy, or the Super Game Boy. Now, one thing on here, too, is this Super Game Boy is actually one for the Super Famicom, and I have actually modded it with the timing fix. If you haven't seen me do that mod, I've got it linked here on the channel as I died. But I think the Super Game Boy looks fantastic. Of course, I'm going to test out my favorite game of all time, Super Mario World. Now, for this, I have actually changed over to the Legacy 16 controller from RetroBit. This is just a fantastic controller. Again, great responsiveness here. I mean, I'm going through into my Samsung gaming monitor I have here now. This monitor is only 1080p, but like I mentioned earlier, the fact that I did have some issues with the original capture and was able to kind of see what it looked like ahead of time before, since this is second time through recording this, this looks so good in 4K. And very responsive too. I'm absolutely loving the responsiveness out of this. And You know, the one thing that it took me a little bit to do, and this was more on my end, was just make sure that I got my OBS settings correct for capture and record, to make sure again that the audio synced with the gameplay. There was nothing wrong. The audio sounded good and the video looked good. It's just a matter of it was out of sync. So we went ahead and fixed that. Yes, there it was, the Yoshi bounce I recently did a YouTube short about. It's just one of the things I've always done. It's kind of like, I know a lot of people will jump for the wands when they beat one of the Koopalings in Super Mario 3. I do the Yoshi bounce. I think this looks beautiful. I think it plays beautiful as well. I mean, if we're going to test out the Sega Genesis, there's one game that we have to try. Sonic the Hedgehog. Now, we are, again, using our RetroBit Big 6 controller, so let's see how Sonic looks, how he plays, how he sounds. I think he looks great. I do apologize that I will not be doing any Ouya testing on this. For those who are looking for Ouya, I kid about that. Of course I'm going to test the Ouya. No, I don't own an Ouya. But we are going to get into some oddball systems here in a little bit. Some less than common ones, shall we say. I think the blues and the reds, I think the colors are beautiful on this. I think this is the way this was meant to be seen and played. All right, now I have 115 rings. All right, we got to the end. We didn't die. One of 3 games that I specifically bought an Atari Jaguar for. Tempest 2000, Alien vs. Predator, and Cybermorph. Yes, I only wanted to play those 3 games, and this is Tempest 2000. And man, this has got such a brilliant soundtrack to it. We are going to dive in and play. Now, I've told the story before how this was one of the games my friend Russ had for his Atari Jaguar back in the day. Yes, we actually had a friend who had one. Yes. And our friend Russ had it, and we all made fun of him for it, but we were all really jealous because it was just cool. It was something really different from, like, the NES and the Super NES and the Genesis and all that stuff. Now, well, Russ had this. We knew none of our friends had a TurboGrafx. Oh, missed that power-up, but there we go. But yeah, this game it's really simple, but I love the soundtrack to it. And if I remember right, they actually offered the soundtrack as like either a pack-in or a bonus item, and we got caught. So now this was the first like 64-bit system. Let's go to possibly let's go to my favorite 64-bit system. Have you ever bought a game you had every intention on playing and it just sat there on your backlog? That's where this comes in for me. This is Tempo for the 32X. And I've played it just to record this footage. And man, it's fantastic. I can't believe how much I dig this. Now let's go into the options. I think that Tempo has an awesome soundtrack. It's wonderfully silly, and it honestly reminds me, like, I could see developers from Earthworm Jim having worked on this just because of the layout of this and everything. It just, I like it. It's really just, it's silly, stupid fun. And isn't that what gaming's supposed to be about? Hi-Fi Performance! And this is all of like 3 games I have for the 32X. I have this, I have Star Wars Arcade, and then Motocross Madness? Is that what it is? But like, look at the detail in the background that's gone into this. This is really well put together, I think, at least. Almost looks like a flash drive, didn't it? I can't get up there! I want to, but I can't. Kick it, we're just kicking with our homies. See what I did there? Well, that was shocking. He's such a cute little character. Ooh. That wasn't cute. But I think the 32X looks great coming through this. So this is, of course, Super Mario 64. Now, this is playing through a... It's playing through an N64 that is connected to the Eon Gaming Super 64, whatever their N64 converter is, the HDMI output on it. The smoothing is not on right now. Now, if you look in the lower right-hand corner, that little icon there, this is the Shindo Pack version of Super Mario 64. That means it actually has Rumble built into it. So let us dive into the first world. Now, obviously it's the N64, so it's not going to look the greatest. But this looks pretty good. Now, one of the things I had an issue with early on was the image would bounce back and forth. It's not doing it now, so I don't know if I've changed something in the settings or what. Which, I mean, I've changed a few things in the settings, but I don't know what would have fixed that. Again, nice and responsive. I mean, I still need to do my HDMI mod on this system, and I've got the stuff to do it. I haven't taken the time, and maybe that's one of the things that I just need to do. What are your first memories of Mario 64? I think I've talked about it before, where in the past, before the N64 came out, I worked at Radio Shack on East Capitol Drive in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. It was right across the street from AM 620 WTMJ. I don't even think... Well, I know that Radio Shack isn't there anymore because there ain't... there's a couple dealer franchise stores still open, but that's about it. Well, right next door to... I mean, I'm going to talk about a whole lot of no longer around places here because... during my lunch breaks, I would go next door to the Blockbuster Video, who had an N64 demo kiosk set up, and I would play Mario 64. And, yeah, I couldn't get enough. I absolutely loved being able to play Super Mario 64 and really not have to pay for it. There's a 1. It's a 1, and the 2, and the 3. That's what we gotta do, is we gotta throw them 3 times. Yeah, looking at the capture on that monitor versus what I'm playing on, that definitely looks smoother, and I'm attributing that to the fact that that is recording my full 4K versus this is only 1080p. But I think this is looking and playing terrifically. I mean, granted, for the cost, you would expect it to do so, but man, I'm in love with this thing. Next, it is time to power up the Sega Dreamcast, and this is actually pretty cool because this is connected now using a SCART cable, a Mamba SCART cable from the Bahar Bros. So I'm really liking it now. Power Stone. I'm going to just button mash. So people who are fans of this game, please don't take it out on me because I honestly have not played it enough to really get the moves down. Look how vibrant. That looks really, really good. Now for this, I am using a Retro Fighters Striker DC wired controller. Oh, that dude's creepy. Get back over here so I can hit you. Oh, he's going to kick my ass, isn't he? Like, I'm trying to punch you, dude. What am I doing wrong? People, please tell me. I told you that I sucked at this, and I wasn't kidding. Wow, he is kicking my rear end. I don't think I hit him. I think he got a perfect on me. So this is not a traditional Indy 500. As you can see, it doesn't have the 3 across start. This is just a quick race. Now, the first time I ever got to play this was actually at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. They actually had 4 IndyCar chassis on a flatbed truck with TV screens mounted to the front of them. Had steering wheel and foot pedals and everything in there, and you could sit inside the car to do a qualifying run, and the top, I don't remember if it was 4 or 8 times, actually got to compete later on in the day against IndyCar drivers. Now, unfortunately, I had to get back to where we were at with our RC event, so I didn't get to compete in the finals. I did make the final 4, or whatever the top cut was. And I was supposed to compete against Tony Kanaan, but he actually had a conflict as well. So I like to say that I made Tony Kanaan so scared that he didn't show up. I have no proof of that, but at least that's... wow, holy understeer, Batman. But overall, for a 480i game, I mean, this thing is actually looking pretty good. Nice line there, finally through 3. All right, we're starting to make some headway now against the competition. Now, for a controller, I am using the Retro Fighters Hunter controller. Absolutely love this thing, except for the fact that I am still pushing, got way too much understeer, and the closer I get to other cars, the worse it's going to get because I'm going to lose the down force on the front wing. You can also see that understeer on the red color on the right front and the lower left-hand side of the screen. It's telling me that that tire is working way harder than it should be. All right, we've got to run. Can we do something with it? Go to the inside. Yeah, it was one of those. Woo. Just kissed the wall. Yeah, this car needs way more front wing on it. But this is legit one of my favorite Xbox games. I mean, it plays so well. And I'm just a racing fan as it is. So I love... Ooh, we got to run, got to run. Can we do anything with it? Coming out of 4. On the outside, we got 1. We got 2. Holy crap, we're going to pass 4 cars on the outside going into 1. That's a bit dangerous. Oh, no. And everything I just gained, I think I'm going to lose. Oh, we still got past 1, so that's a good thing. So this is what the original Xbox looks like, and I'm happy with this. And connection-wise, this is connected to our... Oh, there we go. There we killed the right front. But we are connected to our Electron Shepherd Xbox 2 HD. So this is coming straight off of an HDMI output on the back of the system. There has been a lot of talk lately about Star Wars Battlefront, especially with the re-releases coming out for the different platforms now. So this is Star Wars Battlefront 2 on the PS2. All right, let's see what we can have. Let's see. Across the bridge and capture the forward command post inside. All right.
All right, men. Today's target is an energy collector on the northern section of the platform. If we can take it down, production facilities in the area will grind to a halt.
Watch those wrist rockets.
So what I'm wondering is if the redo is really as bad as people are saying, or is it one of those things that the originals weren't as great as we remember? Because that could definitely be a potential too. All right, we need to clear out some turrets here. But I gotta say, overall, this is again playing well. It's a little bit on the dark side, I will say that. Oh, as I fell to my death. Okay, well, that's what the PS2 looks like. What about the GameCube? Dive into some Mario Kart Double Dash here on the GameCube. Now, this is connected using component video cables from Retrobit. These are the Prism cables, and then I am using the Retro Fighter Battler GC controller on here too. Did not time that well. Oof, we got hit by something there. Power sliding definitely not the same as what we have in Mario Kart 8 Deluxe, that's for sure. Oh, got them both up to second. Let's see if we can get the leader then. Who's the leader? Ooh, got smushed big time there. I don't even see the leader. Holy banana peels, Batman. Well, we got one of them. Oh, and we got the banana. Again, I think this is looking great. I think that the GameCube does really, really well when upscaled like this. And, you know, it's one of those two. There we go, Mario. And a Luigi, number 1. I think it's one of those that the GameCube just suits itself very well to being cleaned up with a system like this. We are on to the Nintendo Wii now, and new Super Mario Brothers Wii, and this is such a great game. It's one of those two that when I play, especially Super Mario Wonder, like I get the roots of this game in that game. And I will say that the Wii is one of the few systems that I can say at the time I bought the OEM component video cables. I'll also say one of the things that the Wii did so well is the immersion through things like the speaker and the remote, or the Wiimote. I know the PS5 has the speaker in there, as did the PS4, but the immersion just wasn't what this was, you know? And part of that was the Wii was a gimmick. It just was. But it was a really well done gimmick. I mean, the fact that the Wii got my dad to buy a video game system, I mean, he was doing something right, that's for sure. Now, one of the things I think that new Super Mario Brothers Wii really did well is that it wasn't gimmicky. It had a few things, like you could use the waggle controls for the propeller cap, but like you could enjoy the core gameplay by playing it like a regular straight up Mario game. I mean, the fact that they had you use the controller like an NES controller is definitely something that the game did amazingly well, and part of it was it took off or was based off of what new Super Mario Brothers for the DS did as well, and then just brought it to a home console. All right, now we are moving on to the PlayStation 3, and I have to admit I'm cheating a little bit here. See, Mike has designed the RetroTink 4K to be HDCP compliant, meaning that if you're coming from a source that utilizes HDCP, it won't display through it. I'm actually running everything through a HDMI splitter that strips that out. I'm not supposed to do that, but it's one of the things that you kind of have to do so that the PS3 will work. So we're going to do single player here, arcade mode, and this is Capcom versus Marvel, or Marvel versus Capcom. Ooh, we've got Wolverine versus Wolverine here too. Oof. Nice combo there. Ooh, Wolverine got a nice combo there on me. I don't know how I switch out my other character. Oh, yeah. Oh, I missed my special. Got him. So I will say the one thing about this is the fact, that I'm not very good at later fighting games, but also it's one of those that no lag, no latency, no delay, and we managed to beat Jin and Wolverine. And I thought that looked great. I thought that looked really, really good. Now we're going to jump over to the PS4, and this is F1 2019. And this is, let's see, we're going to do a race strategy run here. And I got to say, I'm really impressed just with the menus there, how everything looked, and even here how everything's looking as far as the tread pattern on the tire, the wear pattern, really. You can kind of see the sheen on the outside shoulders because they're really shiny when they come out of the molds. The details and everything. This is looking really good. Now we are running the track in Italy. I believe this is down the front straightaway we go. We had the DRS, or the drag reduction system, open, and that's where the flap on the rear wing opens up and gives you more straight line speed by having less drag in less critical areas. Now, often people ask what the difference is between a Formula One car and an Indy car. First and foremost, Indy cars run on ovals, road courses, and street courses. Formula One, only street courses and road courses. They don't do ovals at all. They both are hybrid technology, so they both have an onboard battery and a motor that can help give extra speed at different parts of the track. And here's a look. You can see the slot on the rear wing was open. With the ERS in Formula One, basically you can recharge it each and every lap, and as long as you have battery power harvested, you can use it. In IndyCar racing, you only have like 2 minutes worth of it. They call it push to pass. It used to be that you could only use it in like so many second bursts, and now they're like, here, if you want to use it all at once, do it. In the map on the lower left-hand corner, if you see it turn purple, that tells you that I have turned the fastest time for that section. The tracks themselves are divided into 3 sectors, Sector 1, 2, and 3. Monza. This is Monza, not Imola. I kept saying Imola, and I knew that wasn't right because Imola's where Ayrton Senna unfortunately died in 93, 92. Watching that race live. Now, I will say, having used a PS5 DualSense controller a lot, going back to the DualShock 4 on the PS4, this thing just feels small. It's really strange to me because I've really liked this controller in the past, and now it's kind of small. And again, there you can see the rear flap was open. Oh, got a little bit of loose coming out of the last corner. Now, I have also changed my ERS deploy. That's the energy recovery system to high. We're going to go back down to medium. Around the Parabolica. One of the most interesting corners in all of Formula One is pretty much flat, but it's a reducing radius as you go around it. Just a fun overall track. Now, people like to talk about how the Dreamcast is underrated. To me, the Wii U, even more so underrated. Now, we are using the Wii U gamepad. I'm sorry, the Wii U Pro controller, not the gamepad, because I hated playing with the gamepad. I will be honest about that. I will say I think this looks fantastic, if not as good as the Switch version. Pretty close. Now, one thing I never understood in this game is why we got both design types on the Goombas. So you got the round kind of baseball looking ones there, and baseball being used quite deliberately here because we'll see in a second. We actually have baseballs in this level, but then we have our more traditional Goomba coming up in a little bit. One of the things about this game, too, is just how great the soundtrack is. It's something that I don't think gets enough credit. This overall, I think, is just a really underrated Mario game, too. What was that Luigi there? Did you guys see that Luigi come out of that box? That was weird. But I do think this does look really, really good. I think the colors are rich and deep. It sounds great, too. That's the other thing. Now, make sure this is definitely one of the levels you want to make sure that you have the cat suit in, because there are quite a few secrets and whatnot. But now, so there's that Goomba. There's our traditional Goombas right there. Like, what gives? There we go. We got all of the panels flipped over. But yeah, I think this is the only Mario game that we have both versions of Goombas in, which is just, it's different. I think the colors here are really vibrant, too. That's also one of the things I love about Super Mario 3D World is the fact that you can climb up the flagpole as you've got the cat suit. I think overall it's such a great game. Now, I mean, this was really the last Mario game on the Wii U of significance. Let's go to the most recent one on the Nintendo Switch, and I'm talking about Super Mario Wonder. So we're going to earn our Dolphin Kick badge right now. It's kind of strange because I thought that I had this saved on already on my, well, I think the detail in this just looks fantastic. I think, and I'm saying fantastic a lot. I should have started a counter earlier in the review of how many times I would say fantastic, but it really is. This is a great looking overall experience, and I'm loving everything that the RetroTink 4K is giving us. So as this is the last game that we are going to push through the system, what do we think overall of it? I love the improvement, first of all, going USB-C instead of micro USB. That's been a long time coming, Mike. I also do appreciate the fact that it does have the HDMI pass-through. That is, or not just pass through, but the fact that you can upscale HDMI as well. You know, that's what is allowing us to do things like the Switch, the PS4, the PS3, coming out of the RetroTink 5X and going into this. Is that necessary? No, it is not. But it is just something that, you know, it gives us the option that we don't have to dink around with so many different profile type setups that's already taken care of for us. It is an investment, I will say that. And if playing on original hardware is important to you and you want to be able to stream or capture footage or, you know, things along those lines, this is something worthwhile to look into. Now, if you're only playing on a 1080p display, don't waste your money. And not that it's a waste, but I don't think you'll get the benefit. The 5X, at least right now, it's not going away. You know, it's still being supported. Mike's still doing firmware updates and everything for it. It is a great, great system. The 4K, I love the fact that I can daisy chain them together, so this gives me even more inputs than what we had what I had in the past, you sucker. I like the fact that he has changed the component and composite inputs from what it was. So before it was on the RetroTink 5X, you suck. It was basically that you had one input that the green input basically that you would utilize for the component and composite. Whereas this has a dedicated component and composite input, basically. I'm all about that. Give me the options. Was I able to make the old one work? Absolutely. Do I like this better? Oh yeah. The inclusion of the profiles is really, really nice as well, and the fact that he's still doing or still hosting additional profile downloads on his website. That's a great thing. I do wish that some of those profiles would be compatible with the HDMI input, not just component or composite or S-video. And that's so that, like, with me, where I have my HDMI modded NES, I really like to be able to take advantage of some of those profiles. And I just can't because I'm not utilizing component or composite input. I'm using HDMI input on that. Oh, you suck. But overall, I've got to say this has been an exceptional experience. One of the things I would like to see him do in the future, especially now with the built-in HDMI port, give me the option to have a RetroTink capture card. I just want everything all in one if I can. That would be awesome if I could. That way I can just, simplify my overall setup that I have. Well, where are you going, buddy? Where are you going? Where you go? All right, we need you to come over here now, bud. Come on, bud. There we go. Come on. You can do it. Oh, he did it all right, and he got me too. But I would say if having the best quality is what you're looking for, then this is what you're going to want. I mean, just quite honestly, you're not going to find a better person behind the scenes keeping things going. Mike is an outstanding member of the retro community. He does so much and is involved with so many different projects that it really, you appreciate when good things happen for good people like this. And we died. But now it is time for final thoughts.
If you can't tell, I absolutely love the RetroTink 4K. Now, I keep wanting to call it the 5X because I'm so used to talking about the 5X. It's not going to replace the 5X, but it's going to be used in conjunction with the 5X. The fact that I can daisy chain from that into this, what that's doing for me, it's expanding what I can actually do. It's allowing me to go ahead and have all of my content upscaled to 4K coming through this, and I can either go to my TV, which may be the way that I go because I tend not to capture in 4K, but I love being able to play in 4K, and this is a 4K TV. No HDR, but we'll do 4K. And the reason for that is simple. 1080p for YouTube video, It takes up less space, it's faster render, faster edit, just it's an easier overall thing to do. And Mike's got to be commended for what he's done here at, with this, the fact, like, okay, it's great that you can take an HDMI input that's 720p or 1080p and upscale it to 4K. We hooked up a Sharp Famicom Twin, 240p output. We hooked it up to this and it looked beautiful for composite. Now, it would have looked better going through, our top loader HDMI mounted NES. Granted, I just wanted to see how that would look 240p going into this, and it looked great. I was really quite happy with it. I also do like the new remote control better than what the 5X's is. Now, my understanding is this is actually what the 5X will now be coming with too. So a lot of nice, interesting features that are on here. The fact that I can just hit a button to go from 4K to 1080p to 1440p to 480p. My TV here will not recognize like 1200p or 1440p, but it'll go back and forth between 1080p and 4K. And I can do that at the push of a button, and I absolutely love that. Also, if you are going to pick one of these up, I'll have a link down below in a pinned comment. You want to pick one of these up too. This is from Todd over at RetroFrog, and this is just a brilliant 3D printed stand. Your RetroTink 4K goes into it. There's a little spot here for the remote control, and not that I had a whole lot to do with it, but I'm glad that Todd reached out to me when he was doing the prototyping and asked if I could test it out, give him some feedback. So this has a little bit of rock solid DNA in it too, so absolutely love that. I don't get anything out of that. I just believe in Todd, what he does. He makes good stuff. Make sure you check out his store before I steal it and put it on my Etsy store. I kid, Todd, I kid. But for the price, really, really good. And I like the fact, like, this is okay laying down. I prefer it like this. Now, one of the things I don't like about this, and I talked about this during the unboxing, this needs to have more tension on it. And I don't know if it's one of those that, this being a pre-production prototype, if the production versions are better than that. I hope that is the case, but that is something that's kind of annoying, that just flops down. It needs some Viagra so it could stay up for more than 4 hours. Brilliant, absolutely brilliant. Now this does have some features on it that I personally will never use. Like, I will never use the 3.5 millimeter headphone input jack or audio input jack. I won't use the Toslink connectors. So, there are things like that that it is overkill. And a lot, going from 240p to 4K is definitely overkill. I can't say otherwise on that, but the fact that you can do it, it's so cool. This is brilliant. Now, you get big time performance for a big time price. This isn't cheap, but the nice thing that Mike has done as well is he's not doing back orders as much as when he gets stock in, he lets everybody know, and typically it's on a Saturday, hey, at this time we're going to open up pre-orders, be ready to go, and, or it's not pre-order, but open up orders, and people have been able to get them that way. So demand is going to be high on this for a long time. One thing I would love to see him do, this is wonderful, this is great, I love the way this works. The 5X, it's wonderful, it's beautiful, I love the way that works. Not everybody is at this level. Not everybody's at that level either. I would like to see a return to some of the 2X style of upscalers for people who really just want to go from 240p to 480p and get a good quality HDMI output on it. That would be something, Mike, I love you, would love to see you do something more like that as well. But this high-end stuff is super, super cool too. Now, if you do want to check out our review of the RetroTink 5X, I will have that link for you right up here so you kind of have an understanding of what this plus that is all about.